Hello, Orland Park. I'm Dan McMillan here for 147 South here in beautiful Orland Park. We have a very, very special guest tonight, folks. I just want to tell you we have a treat that I don't often get to present. I rarely get to meet someone of her stature. But let me get right to it. I want to introduce to you a best-selling author, an author that she's only written her first book, but she's on a book tour now. You're on a book tour now, and I better get her name out. She's wondering, why are you doing all the talking, and I'm not, and I don't get to talk. Nancy G., thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you very much.
It's wonderful to see you. You're one of, I talked to you a little bit beforehand, and I told you part of what we do here on the show is we're here to enjoy Orland Park's treasures. And you are an Orland Park treasure. That's what I've been told, and I think we're going to find, folks, you're going to find as we talk about her book and we talk about her family history. I think she's one of the founders, her grandparents, I don't know if you know if it's your great-grandparents,
both,
who founded it. So let's talk. What we're going to do is we're going to let them know Nancy has just written a book,
yes,
The Secret Drawer. And it's a children's book illustrated by Ray Ann Sonoris. Am I saying that right?
That's correct.
Okay, we want to give credit where credit's due. Written by the wonderful Nancy G., the brilliant Nancy G. And so I hope I'm not flattering you too much, but I just want to. But I'm in such in awe of somebody that can actually that is able to put it together. In such a form that it's both. You're going to find the more we talk about the book, it's both it's a fun book to read, but it's great because the children won't read it. They won't even realize they're learning. That's the best kind of learning, is that you're learning in life. So you wrote this book, Here Now, 2014. Mm-hmm. You're on a whirlwind tour, and it brought you here to Orland Park, to our humble studios here for our humble Channel 4 Orland Park Studios, for which we want to thank Mayor Dan McLaughlin, which we always are appreciative of the village of Orland Park, especially the trustees and Mayor McLaughlin. So we're here. We've got the book. We're going to talk about the book. Before we talk about the book, we're going to talk about you. But to be able to talk about you, we need to be able to go way back in time, because we're talking on local TV, and I think it's very important that people that are living here in Orland Park get a little flavor of the origins of Orland Park. It wasn't always, the mall was not always there. The big boxes were not always there. The subdivisions were not always there. They're a nice part, and they're part of our fabric now here in Orland Park. But what we have is, you have a real family history here in Orland Park. So let's go back to the beginning. When and where, and then we can talk about the whys, did your family settle here in Orland Park?
Well, the family settled here in Orland Park, and they were farmers. All this land here in Orland Park was basically just farmland, just miles and miles. And the family had a farm at about 159th and 108th, and that was where the family farm was. And they raised Percheron horses and milking cows. And the milking cows were produced milk, and we delivered to the city of Chicago.
Now, what year the first? Give me a time frame of when your great grandfather first settled here.
Well,
was it your great grandfather? Okay, so your great grandfather put a stake right where the 108th and 159th, not knowing it was 108th and 159th.
Well, his children,
yes,
his daughter,
yes,
was out there. Now, the grandfather had a mill shop, and he did something different, and he was at 83rd and Hoyne, and he had a little mill shop. That was the grandfather. That would be my great-grandfather.
Yes.
And then my grandparents had the farm out here, where my father and the 10 boys were born and raised, and that's what they did.
So your father was part of a family of 10?
10 boys and girls. primarily boys.
Yeah, very nice. So they work the land. They're
Work
out
the
here.
land.
They work that area at 108th and 159th. Just give perspective of what's out there. I think Fifth Third Bank is out there now, and right Arctic Ice Arena is right around there. We love Mr. Gust with Arctic Ice Arena. It's very exciting over there. But before that, so it was the family farm.
Correct.
What kind of horses did you say?
The Percherons.
What's a Percheron
Those
horse?
are great big horses with the big feet with all the fur. Huge horses.
So it's similar to a like a Clydesdale?
And they pull the wagons for the milk.
Okay, so that's it. You raised the Percheron horses, pulled the wagons for the milk that you had, because you also had the milking cows.
Right, and they did other things too. They farmed the soy, and they had, the other farm animals. But primarily, it was just a working farm.
So a working farm.
And as the generations went on, the boys, and they all stayed in the community.
Yeah.
They all developed some part of Orland or suburbs near Orland.
Yes.
And the family stayed for generations and generations.
Generations, and that's how it's brought up to you. We don't want to get there too fast. So the horses they were the ones that you used to take the milk then to the city of Chicago. So you actually took from here, Orland Park,
right,
all the way down to the city of Chicago.
I think there was a town in Worth that they
would
pick up from there and then go from there downtown.
They would go from there, there to there and back.
Right, and then my great-grandfather had the mill shop, and then he would build all of the schools for the city of Chicago.
So you had a mill shop out here.
34th and Hoyne.
34th. That was 34th and Hoyne.
Right.
That was in Chicago. You're out here with the farm. There. That's your great-grandfather.
Great-grandfather.
Then your grandfather.
He was working the farm.
He worked the farm.
And they were primarily the boys in those days. They didn't have anything except land.
Yeah.
So they just had land. They had land in Mokina and Homer, and this was just desolate out here.
Yes.
Just nothing around.
No, it's hard to picture it. It's
really
so
is.
developed now.
And then as the boys got a little older, that's when we started developing actual businesses here.
Yes. So the businesses, there was a need to service the farms,
right,
and the farm families that lived out here. So what do you remember some of the when you were young? What do you remember some of the first businesses that were out here?
Well, one of the very first one was Orland State Bank, which is now Marquette Bank.
So Orland State Bank. So Marquette started as Orland State Bank.
And it was at the corner of 143rd and LaGrange Road.
143rd and LaGrange. I think we're leading into something here, for those of you who know what's there.
And in those days, it was just the bank. I mean, there was nothing around. There were no gas stations. It was just the bank. And then later on, probably I'm going to guess about in the 70s, that's when they developed the actual plaza.
Yes. So
my father and one of his brothers developed that plaza.
So they built. So your father, your family helped build. They developed it and helped build the Orland Plaza, which had Randy's Meat Market, the Orland Bakery, Marquette Bank, Langley's.
Cosner was in there. We actually had the first U.S. Post Office way back. They had a little post office right next to where the bank was.
So you developed that. That's an anchor, early 70s. Shortly thereafter, the mall is built.
Correct.
And then, so that
starts to make a town.
Yeah, it starts to make a town. It starts anchoring it, and enjoyable, where people are. The subdivisions start popping up. You get everything starts to follow each other. The businesses pop up, the subdivisions. It comes together. Orland probably went from a town back then of 10,000, and built up, and now it's over 50,000 people here.
Unbelievable.
So, it is. It's an amazing.
I mean, it's amazing.
It is, and it's not done growing. We've got a lot of room for growth, and but it's controlled growth, and the trustees do a very nice job of making sure there's progress. But it's still. I always like to talk about Orland Park as it's got urban amenities, but with a small town, hometown feel. I almost feel like I'm in, at times I feel like I'm in Mayberry in terms of the friendliness of everybody being here.
And it's generations of people that keep going on and on, and they don't leave.
Yes, and that's what we were just talking about it before we came on camera. We were having a conversation, as we're having now, about how valuable it is that you've got generation after generation where you grow up here, you go to Carl Sandburg High School, let's say, What high school did you go to?
Carl Sandburg High School.
Carl Sandburg High School.
How could you...
So you're an Eagle.
Uh-huh.
So we love the Eagles. So you go to high school, you go away to college, but you settle back here, and then here you are. It's roots. It's like you've planted. You've got a foundation here, and that's what I love about the community. It's as if it's not transient at all. It has a fabric, and that fabric is very well sewn into it. So you go to high school, you go to college. Where'd you go to college at?
I went to Drake University.
You went to Drake?
Yeah.
Did you ever run in the Drake relays?
No.
Okay.
I saw a lot of Drake relays.
A lot of Drake relays. We love the Drake relays.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's always, if you're going to talk about Drake University, you're going to have to at least mention the Drake. You know who the Drake is? If you ever watch Seinfeld, there's a Seinfeld episode where they talk about the Drake. He's a person, and he's getting married, and they buy him a big screen TV, and then then the marriage gets called off, and then they want the TV back after they gave it as a shower present. It's a whole thing. So if you have to watch Seinfeld episodes, if you have, sometimes you get hooked on Seinfeld, and then you just can't. It's one of those things you're addicted to. You can't stop watching it. But anyway, the Drake. So you went to Drake University. And you came back, and could you come back into the family business?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so...
in those days, that's what everybody did.
Yes.
When you grew up in the business, you usually stayed in the business.
Yes.
And I knew nothing other than lumber and building materials, so I came back and did that.
You came back, family business was still thriving at that point.
Yes.
In the lumber. Before, so then we had, as things progressed, sometimes progress, you question, what does progress mean? So what it meant at that point was, we talked a little bit about the big boxes came in. What happened when the big boxes came in, such as Handy Andy, which isn't around anymore either, but what happened when the big boxes came in?
Well, in those days, we ran locations around Chicago, and we had home centers, just exactly what the big boxes are, but the big boxes came in, they were public.
Yes.
And all the rest of these businesses were family.
Yeah.
And you just could not compete.
No.
For example, a leader item that somebody would buy for $1, we'd have to pay $3 for.
Yeah.
So you knew the writing was on the wall. So at that point in time, we went along for a while, but it just wasn't going to work. It was just too much money and power with these big boxes. So we closed up our doors, as well as many of the other lumber yards and home centers did at that time. And just that was the end of the family business.
So it was a little bittersweet, sad.
Very bittersweet.
Very bittersweet. Not as much, probably a little more bitter than sweet.
Oh, after 50 years of doing this?
Yes,
wow.
It's difficult. So where do you go from there?
I had nowhere to go.
Nowhere to go.
No
you
job.
You wandering the streets.
And as I'm shutting down, I'm thinking, what can I do? I mean, I have no job. I've got family to take care of. And I decided to go back and do what my great-grandfather did. Now we're back at 34th and Hoyne at that mill shop, and I reopened his business and took what I had. We had a couple forklifts. I had a truck. I had some of his equipment, and I got a mobile home, one of those little mobile trailers, offices, and we had some land over there at 79th and Western. We parked there and began a business.
79th and Western. That's right by it's right by St. Rita's.
St. Rita's.
Yeah.
That was our main headquarters.
Oh, very good.
And I operated there for about a year, and then Norfolk and Southern came in to make it their mobile yard, and we moved out, and I went and found a place in Alsop. And I've been there ever since. And in my shop, right in the middle, is my grandfather's saw. It's a rip saw. It's over 100 years old. And I'm still using it.
And you're still using it. It's still being productive.
Now.
Each time you crank that up, does it bring back a memory of your grandfather?
Oh, my goodness, yes.
Yeah,
and people who come to see the shop, you have all the modern-day computer saws and all that. But there she sits, and people walk in and see
Now, where's the shop at?
Alsop, Illinois, off 127th Street.
127th and what?
Pulaski.
Pulaski, okay. So we're all going to go visit the mill shop. Take us back in time to see that rip saw. 127th and Pulaski and Alsop.
And I actually have photographs on the wall of his shop, and that rip saw is in those pictures.
Oh, I can't wait.
I mean, it's really...
I'm coming over. You
can come see it.
I'm coming over. So you're now doing that. You fulfilled your dream of re-energizing the family business. It's great. Brings you back. You're working on that for a while. You then we're approaching 2014, or when was it? Okay, so I don't want to get ahead of myself or ahead of you. Something was stirring in your mind, even though you said you really never had an aspiration. It wasn't something that you aspired to do, at any point in your life when you're 25. Oh, I need to write a book or anything like that. You had never thought about it. Okay, so when did the idea come to you to write The Secret Drawer?
When the real life experience happened.
The real life experience. And what is the real life experience?
I had a painter come to the house just to do your natural repainting of a wall. He came down the balcony in the back, opened the door, but he left it open while he brought in his tools, his paints, his tables. And then he left that evening, and my cat came and sat in front of a drawer and would not leave. All right, well, an hour is okay, but a day? So we pick up the cat, we carry him to the kitchen, say, there's nothing there, please. And he'd trot right back, and he'd just sit.
He knew.
Oh, he knew.
He knew.
And we knew, but what was it?
Yeah, you were a little scared. You didn't be careful what you wished for.
We opened all the drawers. Nothing happened.
Oh, nothing.
So on the third day, my husband reaches over, opens that sock drawer, and out flew this animal. I mean, flew out and took off to the door from which he'd come in with a cat right behind him. They got to the door. Now, what would your reaction be? Kill.
Well,
cat, kill.
Yeah.
Nope. Cat screeched to a little halt, protected his find, and was so proud because he'd been sitting there for 3 days, and now he could show what he was sitting there for. And this little animal curled right up into the door, just shaking. Oh, I mean, he was terrified.
Yeah.
And, we couldn't figure out what it was. As nature-oriented as our family is, we could not figure it out. It had these great big black eyes, and it was just a little larger than a chipmunk, but it didn't have a stripe, and it had flaps under its arms. Now, a bat, but it didn't have the face of a bat. So my husband and I got a little cup, we covered him up, we took him outside, put him on the balcony railing. Now there's a 30-foot drop behind our house down into our creek. And the cat hopped up on the railing, still not bothering him, and down he went. But when he jumped off, he opened up his arms, and he glided back and forth, got to the bottom, and guess who's at the bottom?
Some getaway car?
No, another little animal just like him.
Or another flying squirrel.
And it was a flying squirrel.
Yes, another flying squirrel. So you had two. You saw
two.
Had you ever seen one in your life before
Never.
that? So here we go from never seen one, and now you have two right there in your.
So we went off to the Little Red Schoolhouse to find out what was it. We had no idea later to learn it was a flying squirrel. And the grandchildren kept saying, "Tell me the story again. Tell me the story again." So I thought, you know what? I am going to write a book. And I looked at both my grandboys and I said, I'm going to write this book.
It's time.
And sat down. It took me 2 years.
So you got the inspiration, so it must have been right around 2012 or so, 2011, 2012, to write the book, The Secret Drawer. And you sat down, but at that point, you're running the business. So did you have to step back from the business, or you still? So
No.
You, for 2 years, were working on the book in collaboration with your illustrator, Miss Ray Ann Sonoris. And you would get together probably in after hours or on weekends to do it. And is the inspiration came to when you were at work sometime? Was there? Because I'm always curious as to writing books, writing songs. Do you actually sit down and say, okay, I'm writing it, or did a lot of it come to you like you're sitting in church and you thought, oh, and then you wrote something down, and you wrote it down right then and there? Where did you get a lot of the material that you ended up writing? Was it when you sat down to write it, or did any of it come to you and you just wrote some notes and then put it together?
Well, the story was already there.
Yes.
Because we have the story of how this unfolded. So I took the whole story first and put it out, and then I went back and illustrated every page in my mind of what it was going to look like.
Yes.
And I wanted to make the book in rhyme, so it would capture the hearts of children, because they can stick with it a little closer if it's in rhyme. It's fun.
Yeah.
Then I wanted the pictures to tell the story, so that if couldn't read it and Mom wasn't there,
Yeah.
you could open that page and know exactly what's going on. So we started out with the characters and developed each character what we wanted to look like. And then after we developed each character, then we put them on the page. And then developed each page as we went along. And sometimes at 2 in the morning, I go, oh, the cat, if you put his foot on that extra little drawer rung, would that be cute? Yeah. And I get on my little cell phone and I text away, and Rayanne would text back. I'd wake her up and she'd text back.
Yeah.
So it was constant. During the day, you'd be driving in your car, or you'd be at the grocery store, and something would hit you all of a sudden of how a scene should be.
Yeah, it had to be, so exhilarating to be in that creative mode for that period of time that you could, anything could come to you at any point, and that could be part of the book that's going to last forever.
Yeah.
So that's what's wonderful, is that you had the opportunity to live in infamy, as they say. That's what you will be. You'll be at the library. You'll be at Barnes and Noble. You'll be at all the bookstores. And so did you? Ask this. I should have asked this before. Did you? So you decided to write a book.
Okay.
Decided to work with Rayanne Sonoris.
Okay.
Did you go and get the publisher first, or did you come up and write most of it first? What's the chicken or the egg here?
I wrote it first.
You wrote it.
And I wrote, and as we got to the end, I decided I wanted to see what it was going to look like. So we did what you would call like a slick comic book, just a comic book type thing.
Yeah.
And I hired this gentleman to put it together. And so we put it together. So it was like a book, but not really a book.
Yeah.
And then there was a question whether you should self-publish or try and be published.
Yes.
And there was 2 publishing companies. One here in Chicago I really wanted to be with, because I could go downtown and I could see them and I could feel it and touch it. Yeah. So, and the company was Ampersand, and they're the publishers. And I trotted downtown with my little slick, walked into that office that day after all this time, and knew that I had a hurdle to go over, because children's books are very difficult to get published. And we sat with the editor and the graphic designer, and they put the book down, and I sat back quietly and watched their eyes, and I knew they loved it as much.
You knew they loved it.
I knew.
Engrossed.
They laughed.
Yeah.
They looked at the characters. They pointed. They said, "Oh, look at this character! Look at it!" And they were having fun in the book. Is what I was so amazed that they found the enchantment of it immediately.
Yeah. So you were able to. They saw that you were able to. You had the talent to put down on paper the fun that they have with the characters, and how really interesting that the characters can be, and not just they're still life, but not still life really. You can the way you put it down in the story, you're able to bring out and pique children's and adults' imagination.
Yeah, most assuredly.
Yeah.
And they could see that. So it was really a very thrilling moment. And my greatest concern is the publisher, once they have a book, can do really what they want. They can change the pictures, they can change the wording. And, I was laying my body over those pictures. And they said they didn't want to change them.
Changing nothing. It's perfect.
They loved it like it is.
Very good.
We tweaked some words in it.
Yeah, of course. They're going to have to. They have to feel like they made a contribution.
Right.
So they had to do.
And they're very professional. They did help me change the cover a little bit. We had a different drawer on the front, but they're professional, and they knew what would catch in the layout should be for the cover of the book, which I would not have known. Yeah. But if you're in the business of doing this, yes, you would.
They're going to know. And was there any thought that went into the size?
Yes.
Okay, what size, and how did you arrive at the size of the book that we have? And I don't know what the inches are. I don't know if it's 8 by 12. I'm not sure what this is. But whatever, how did you arrive at the size?
I wanted a size that when a child takes it in the car, it'll fit. I wanted a book that goes in a bookcase that sits up, because so many books are so tall, they just fall over, and mothers don't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
So I wanted a book that slid in and could be taken in the car, popped in mother's bag.
Yeah.
So definitely the size, we spent a lot of time on just the size of the book. And then if you get too small, you lose the characters.
Yes,
The illustrations disappear.
Yeah.
So that was a very important
It's kind of the way we've lost the art of the album. As you remember when you were younger and you had the albums. I mean, Abbey Road doesn't look the same on this little CD case as it does on that album. And especially the double albums. So this, a nice big picture, is The Secret Drawer, written by Nancy G. So it's, wasn't there there's a singer called, I don't know, with G. But anyway, no. Anyway, I don't want to get too much on a tangent here. So you went down, you saw the publisher. Mm-hmm. They loved it, as you knew they would. Slam dunk. No, you knew you nailed it.
No.
You knew you nailed it.
I knew it was
You're a very confident young lady. You said, I've got this.
I knew it was a good book.
Yes.
But I am now dealing with a publisher, a professional person. Will they be able to see the enchantment that I saw?
Yes.
And they did.
And they did. So how long did it take from that point on to, you said you did a little tweaking, and you had to probably do, you did a little here, a little there. How long did it take then to bring it to fruition, so to speak?
I'm going to guess it took us about 8 weeks, because then you have to go through the hardcovers, the kind of paper you're going to use, all that, the printers, how far out are the printers and printing time, and we're talking about October-ish. That's when it actually came out, and now you're starting in the Christmas season, so there's a lot of pressure right now for printers, so we were fortunate enough to get it in by
So The Secret Drawer... The Secret Drawer. National author here, Nancy G. You have written it. It came out just in October. Mm-hmm. You are now finding that part of your responsibility is to get out there on the road and get the book out there. It's what you need to look at it as fun. You need to look at it as part of the fun, because if you look at it as, I got to go out there, I got to do this, I got to do that. If you approach it, which I try to approach most things in life, is try to find something good in whatever you do. Because one of the things I always say is enjoy the journey, because you never know.
You just don't.
You never know what the destination's going to bring, and usually the destination's not nearly as good as it's hyped up to be. So enjoy the journey, because then you get there and you say, this is it, but I did have fun in the journey. So John Lennon used to say that. But that was a big thing he always talked about, was the journey. But anyway, so you're now going to be out. You're now out on your journey. It says we're into the Christmas season. Uh-huh. It's the beautiful Christmas season here in Orland Park. What have you experienced so far in being on a book tour, so to speak?
The kids, they're just marvelous.
Yeah.
To have written it, and then to see their little eyes looking up at you, and then get with a group of really young ones that can't hold still.
Yeah.
And at the end of the book, you still have the children just fascinated.
Yes.
Or I have a 13-year-old boy who reads the book and says, wow. Because not only does the book tell the story about the animal caught in a secret drawer, the end of the book is designed to teach. So now we teach at the end of the book. We teach the children what are their eyes, what are the flaps under their arms for, what are their tails designed for, and we actually educating. So the book is designed in two fashions, not only to entertain, but to educate. And I found in one of the preschools I went to, the kids couldn't wait to get on the modern-day computer and look up what a flying squirrel looked like.
Yeah, so
so right away they're in there.
Yeah, so it's wonderful. You piqued their interest. You really have, and it's
making education fun.
Yeah. I'm going to have to go up and look what a flying squirrel is. I think I'm going to go on YouTube and see if I can. My only experience with the flying squirrel, of course, is Rocky. Rocky and Bullwinkle with the flying squirrel, but that's what I remember back on Captain Kangaroo. If we all remember watching Captain Kangaroo back in the early days, but we've got so you came down. You're on your book tour. Throw out one highlight. Give me one of the highlights on the book tour so far. I know you love seeing the kids, but what did it say? Highlight. A
highlight was this last Saturday. We had sponsored by Marquette Bank, which was dear to my heart because that's Orland State Bank,
Yes, there
now
is.
Marquette.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in this room with all these children when a 10-year-old walks up to me. And she says, would you please autograph my book, but I want you to put a special message in. And she said, I want to be an author. And she was glued to my hip the whole time.
That's interesting. It's a lot of
Interesting.
fun. It's,
One of the fellows who was running the thing says, I'm 37 and I haven't figured out what I want to do. And here's a 10-year-old who was so focused on, she wanted to know everything about it. It was so dear to watch. At that time, I had a cameraman there from one of the newspapers. And bless, he took all of her pictures with me. So she'll be on one of the newspapers, and she cannot wait to see her own picture come out with her book, which her mother Facebook made it. She's sleeping with now, her book. And she had her day.
No, it's got to warm your heart.
Oh, my, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
It does.
I mean, when you look at her little eyes, and she just, you wrote a book?
Yeah.
And I'm just as simple as she is.
Yeah.
I've never written a book. So we were on the same level.
Yeah, now you've done it.
Now I've done it.
You've written The Secret Drawer. It's a wonderfully illustrated book, and it's in memory of your mother,
Yes.
who was an avid reader and a woman who loved nature and all animals.
Yes.
So it's wonderful that you dedicated it to your mother. She's looking down at us from heaven now and saying, I think you could have done a little better with the illustration. You know how mothers are. She's probably critiquing it right now, saying you could have done this, you could have done that. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But no, it's a wonderful book. I've read it from cover to cover, but I'm not going to give away the ending. You can't. But as you said, it really is fun to read at any age, even my age. It's fun, but it is educational. Because how many of us really, like you said, you went down to the schoolhouse. You were not familiar with what a flying squirrel was going to be.
No clue what it was.
I mean, it was something brand new. So now you're New York Times best-selling author, Wall Street Journal list, all kinds of lists. You're going to be on the list, all kinds of stuff. Amazon, I'll probably have to go up and look and see how you rank on Amazon. I'm sure you're there.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't rest on your laurels. You're only as good as your next book, as we all say. So your next book, you're already there. So where are we headed?
Well, I've already written the second book, but the publisher told me I had to set it on the side because they heard what happened to those squirrels, and they said, sorry, put that book aside, and we want a sequel. So we do have a sequel. It's in the writing.
Oh, so you've written a different book.
I wrote a completely different book.
So you got so excited about writing a book. With this one, you wrote another book. Can we ask what that's about, or is it you keeping it a secret?
Yes, no, that one was about my grandchildren again. They're dirt bike boys who ride the dirt bikes, and their dog Hurley, who is a Great Dane.
Oh, the Great Dane.
So that was what the story was around, and all these characters are still in the book.
Oh.
But the publisher felt that the story that I told them about what happened the next year with the flying squirrels, nada. Set that on the side, and let's do book number 2 as a sequel.
So you're doing a sequel.
Yeah,
yes,
I'm into it.
This is America, the land of sequels. I mean, I think we're on our 22nd Batman movie now, and so why not? You might end up doing 10 of these. That'll be great. You will be, you'll be touring the country. You'll probably be on David Letterman before he retires, or you'll be on, who is it, Jimmy Fallon now, so you'll be on.
Well, maybe a sequel for 2, but the squirrels have to give me sequel 3.
Yes.
And they've given me sequel 2.
Yes.
A real live story for sequel 2.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
It'll come. You'll get the other one. Maybe you ever see Christmas Vacation?
Yes.
Remember the squirrel that's in there and it comes out and it ends up on the back and on the... Just thought I would lighten it up a little here with Christmas Vacation. As we're talking about all the great, the things you're doing with your books, you're a brilliant author, world-renowned. Let's get to know a little bit of Nancy G. Who are some of the major influences in your life?
My father.
Your father.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great man. I didn't know him, but I'm sure he was a great man. Yeah.
He just walked a different path of life. He was just a very fun person to follow. It wasn't anything I just could follow behind every day to learn something from him throughout life's experiences. And he had such a wonderful outlook on life. Nothing could get in his way.
Yeah. And he supported everything you did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And felt that you should always try everything.
Yes.
And even though we all have failure. I mean, every one of us that live life. And he always made me feel that your failure is really success turned inside out. And it just, he had such a drive that you can do anything you want to do. So as I embarked on this book, I always remembered, I'm not going to know unless I try.
Yeah.
So he was probably one of the most influential people in my life, next to my mother, the book was dedicated.
Yeah, the book was dedicated.
Very brilliant woman, into so many things, and art, and they were both involved with the recording for the blind here.
Oh, yeah.
And she did a lot of the Braille for the blind, and giving of her time, and theater, and art, and just a marvelous combination of people. So those were probably my strongest.
Strongest two influences, your
Oh,
parents.
absolutely.
And you know, many times people say your heroes should be your parents, not a pro football player or not those type of parts, but it's somebody that's that near and dear and close to you, and helps you become the person that you are. So, as you now that you're an author, do you look at books and see? Do you have some favorite authors that you just like to read? Do you have, and do you look at it a little more critically than you did before you were writing books?
Not really. I read a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's a business journal or whether it's an article about something. I read a lot, but it's amazing how many books there are. I mean, we all pick up a book and we become focused on that book.
Yeah.
But when you actually, now that I've written a book, I walk in and think, wow, look at all these books.
Look at all these books.
Somebody wrote them.
Yes. Yeah.
And all these people are just like myself. They've all written something from their heart and experience, a mystery or a history book of over time. And it's just amazing how many people are out there telling us a story or something that's happened in their lives.
Yes, we can all learn from just about anybody's experience.
Anybody.
And that's what you have to not just say, oh, I just like to read Truman Capote or something.
Yeah.
So what are some of your favorite authors?
Oh, I like David Bellucci. I like the Grishams. I like history. I just like a little dabble of everything.
Yes.
You know, just if I find something I want to learn about, I'll spend educational book. If I'm interested in learning something about a software or an accounting thing, I'll go get a book and get involved with that.
Yeah.
So
there's so much reading to be done. I mean, everything from the Wall Street Journal, the Cranes, like you said, and educational journals. It's amazing sometimes that we can find the time to read for pleasure. That's probably the most difficult thing that I find, is trying to be able to read a novel, to actually sit down and read, Tuesdays with Morrie. That's why Mitch Albom's books I like, because they're fairly short. You can almost sit down in a day and read his book. It's War and Peace I still haven't finished War and Peace. I started it in college and I'm still working on it. And Dr. Zhivago, one of these days I'll finish that too. But they're all, and all of those are fascinating books and fascinating subjects, and you can learn different things from them. You throw yourself into it, or you just read a little. There was a best-selling author, Anne Quinlan, I think it is. Yeah, she writes a lot of short stories and thin books, not a short story book, but just shorter books, and there's some bestsellers. So it's Anne Quinlan. If you ever wandering around Barnes and Noble, take a look for an Anne Quinlan book, and I think you'll enjoy it.
Okay, marvelous.
So we loved having you here. The Secret Drawer by Nancy G. Illustrated by Ray Ann Sonoris. Now, it's way beyond me. I can never write a book. I can't illustrate a book. I can't draw. I can barely write my name. But I am, overjoyed to have met you today.
Well, thank you.
And just knowing, and you're a treasure of Orland Park, but that doesn't. You're not going to get away without answering the question. So. We're here. We're going to wrap up. And I'm sorry that it's come to an end. The interview. And I know we've all looked forward to this for so long. But you've been out on your book tour, and you've been asked a number of questions. But the question that is really on everyone's mind, and the question that really is at the heart of civilization as we know it.
All right.
Rolling Stones or Beatles? Are you a Stones or a Beatles lady?
Hmm.
It's a tough one. I know it's there's a diverse style between each of them, but who you choose kind of gives a reflection upon your sophistication.
Well, you've interviewed me for this period of time.
Yes.
And you know which character is for the Stones and which is for the Beatles.
Yes.
All right, which one am I?
I'm going to go with I'm going to go out on a limb here.
Okay.
And I'm going to reach out here into Liverpool and say that you are a Beatles, more of a Beatles young lady than a Stones. Though, that doesn't mean you don't like Stones, because I love both of them, but I can see you as really being the Beatles.
You're correct.
Yes.
That's what I would have said.
Yeah, so I can see you walking across Abbey Road and being on top of the building for their last show in 1971 and saying that you hoped you passed the audition. Or I could see you at Shea Stadium in 1964 yelling, "The Beatles! Oh, they're here! They're here!" But and I tend to find that the Beatles are a little more, sometimes their fans are a little more sophisticated. So me, not being as sophisticated, I love them both. I really do. I really do.
You only get one answer.
Yeah, I know. I only get one answer. If I had to choose, either one, cause just an outright jam. Because sometimes you just like to outright just jam. But my favorite all-time song, because that's the way I would have to choose. The Rolling Stones is "Sympathy for the Devil." I always loved "Sympathy for the Devil." And then you got songs like "You Can't Always Get What You Want," which is a very poignant song, which I think is you could even work into a children's book down the road. Can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you get what you need.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's a clever idea.
Yeah. So Stones, Beatles, the Beatles. She's a very sophisticated young lady, and you've done a phenomenal job putting together the secret drawer. So you'll continue to tour through this holiday season. Is this your favorite time of year? I ask all the kids this recently.
We love it. We love it.
I mean, it's the holiday
Obsessive.
season. It's the holiday season.
Yeah.
So you almost want to start singing. But I won't break out in song. Don't worry. But it's a wonderful time. So so even though you're out on a book tour, which some people might think, oh, you're going to be out there. Like I said, enjoy the journey. So as you go downtown, say that you were talking about, we had talked about before, you went to the Barnes & Noble at State Street.
State Street.
Isn't it beautiful downtown?
Oh.
I mean, it's the festivities from the Crystal Kin Market to, we were talking before also about how the last, to me, and folks, just do it. Go downtown to State Street and visit what I'm going to call Marshall Fields at Christmas time. It's Macy's, but it's Marshall Fields. Go to the 7th floor, and you have to go to the Walnut Room. It's just one of those, you set certain traditions, like going to the Goodman every year to see Christmas Carol. And, there's so many things. Go to the Crystal Kin Market, and as you're walking by, you'll see CBS 2 News in there. Wave at them. Maybe you get on TV. It's exciting. So exciting down there. Just the hubbub of it all. But do it. Don't miss that, and make that a family tradition. That whole area. It's just. I went to see Annie last week down there, and it was. Did you ever watch Annie?
Yes, and just the city itself.
Yeah,
it's just a beautiful city. We're so blessed to have it.
Oh yeah, we are. So the city. It's wonderful to live out in Orland Park. But what's great is we've always got the sanctuary of the suburb. And then we can travel to the city and experience all that a metropolis of Chicago has to offer. So, children's book, The Secret Drawer, Nancy G. But she is so much more. She is part of the founding of Orland Park. So remember, without her family, there would be no Orland Park. I would not be sitting here in the studio. So, folks, this is the first. This is our first interview that we are bringing to you from the new studio that we like to call the Orland's finest. And here we are breaking new ground in this holiday season 2014. Nancy, thank you for coming so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's so wonderful
Appreciate.
to see you. From Orland Park, it's Dan McMillan and Nancy G., world-renowned author, saying thank you, Mayor McLaughlin, for 147 South. Thank you, and happy holidays.